Imagine this. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your feelings. This is your house. But is it your home? Hi, I'm Nelson DeMello, and join me as we try to find our home beyond our borders. I don't know. I think that's fine.
Yeah, that's a good take.
Let's keep it going. So, yeah, redemption. And of the entire human race, right? Not just the individual. And I know this whole thing of, oh, if Jesus saved one person, it was enough. Yeah, maybe. I think he can't deny himself. He would have died even if it meant no one believing in him. Of course, that's not like a wise thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay, let's keep it pushing, dude. Oh my gosh. So Noah, the flood, he's a righteous man. In all of this corruption that's going on, he is righteous. And the ark is a typology of salvation, right? It's honestly of baptism. This idea that your wickedness is in the waters, dies. You come up a new creation, a new humanity, right? So the waters is decreation and recreation. The covenant with the rainbow, a cosmic promise that he won't ever do this again. Yeah, so I guess this is the one time. But there's threats of it. The promise here is that he won't do this to all of humanity again, right? Destroy some things, some synonyms go, even modern world. Like destruction, natural disaster, all this stuff, it's going to happen. This doesn't break the promise. His promise was like annihilation. He's never going to annihilate again. Some people say he's never going to annihilate with water again, right? Like if the freaking, nukes go off or whatever, that's fire or something, that's different. But the idea is he made a promise. He's still keeping it. Cool. Spiritual insights here. It's an echo of creation again, right? Flood ends, land appears, and then the command to multiply again. Be fruitful and multiply. He tells Adam and Eve. It leads up to the Nephilim. Noah. The flood happens, all the Nephilim die, which I think is important. All the Nephilim die, okay? And then Noah, be fruitful, multiply, here's some land, boom, okay. Could be a global flood or a local flood. I forgot. Thank God for my notes. Yes, this is a debate. Did the whole world really flood? Was it just a local flood? Look, again, I don't know. And people are going to say, see, this is why you shouldn't take it as a textbook and this and that. I will say that there are narratives of world floods in different cultures. Japanese, and that's literally all I know. But I know that I think other cultures actually have other flood stories. That's kind of a coincidence. A little too much of a coincidence, maybe. I don't know what that means. Again, same with the Adam and Eve thing. If there were different Edens and they all failed, or again, this story is the storyline that leads to Jesus. I wanted to kind of hold on to this idea until Abraham. And the idea is because God promises Abraham, your seed will bless all families. That's the promise. Your seed will bless all families. So he could possibly, right? There was a Japanese Adam and Eve. There was, some European Adam and Eve. This was our Northern African Adam and Eve, maybe in the Fertile Crescent, right? That's where people think Eden was. I don't know. But there could have been all of these Adams and Eves and Edens. And the same storyline applies to all of these people. Ironically, if we met aliens, they'd probably tell us the same story. I don't know. Scratch that? I don't know. Alien Jesus? That's crazy. I don't know about all that. Dude, where am I going? Okay, dude, let's keep it pushing, dude. I'm so sorry. Okay. Bro. Oh my goodness. I'm too dangerous for the internet. Oh my gosh. Okay, yes. But theological point remains. God judges evil, but preserves a remnant. Okay? He is a merciful God. He's also a just God, right? God destroys the completely irredeemable, but saves what can be redeemed. A theme tied later to Sodom and Gomorrah, for example. Other passages we'll be looking at later. Okay, Genesis 10. It is a bunch of genealogy. What's important here, okay? This right here, I'm holding a hat. This hat right here is my, should I wear it weird? This is my conspiracy theory hat, okay? Why I say this, there is this idea of these 70 generations, 70 sons, they should say, they represent all of mankind. This is like the symbology, right? This represents, because 7 is the number of perfection, 70, a little more perfect, whatever. This represents all the families of the whole world, okay? This sets the stage for Deuteronomy 32, setting the stage for the Tower of Babel. We look at Deuteronomy 32:8, okay, where it says that the nations are disinherited and divided under the sons of God, okay? And then verse 9 says that I chose Abraham and yada yada. We'll get there when we get to Deuteronomy. So we have this idea. There's 70 people, 70 cultures, 70, whatever. And this represents, maybe it's a literal number. Don't think so. Could be, maybe. But it represents all of humanity. All of humanity then builds a tower. The Tower of Babel. What's happening here? One, there's a human pride element. Let us make a name for ourselves. This is direct disobedience also, if you're reading the story. Lest we disperse over the earth. God specifically says, be fruitful, multiply, and spread out. And that did not happen. So God then confuses language and divides and scatters. Cool. And this is where you get the 70 languages for the 70 peoples. Moving on. Spiritual parallel. Rebellion echoed in Babel is equivalent to the cosmic rebellion. This is Satan. This is Adam. This is Cain. The rebellion against God. Deuteronomy 32. God assigns nations to the sons of God. The same sons of God that gave birth to? That's not right. Yeah, the Nephilim. Yeah, pretty much. So we have to keep that in mind. Okay? And from here, God chooses one man, Abraham, to conquer and redeem everything. Genesis 11, we have the genealogy. From Shem all the way to Abraham, you have, I'm just going to call him Abraham the whole time, okay? It's just easier for me, easier for you. There was a point where he changes his name. Well, God changes his name, but, let's just, Sarah, Abraham, okay? Cool. I'm glad we can agree. Yeah. We just see, again, the direct lineage from Adam to Abraham, and that's the important part in the genealogy. Okay. And then we look at, from Genesis 12 to 15, the failures in faith of Abraham. Okay. So God calls Abram, blesses him again. I'm going to use you to bless all of the nations. So we see that he is righteous by his faith, right? He steps out, he goes into a new land that is promised to him. He's making these covenants with God. God promises to take his punishment. Okay, this is super important. Genesis 15, one of my favorite stories, talked about it before. Essentially, Abraham says, how do I know you're going to hold up your end of the deal? And he's like, look at all these stars and da-da-da-da. Like, I'm making a promise to you. And then Abraham says, how do I know that I'm going to hold up my end of the deal? And then Abraham goes into deep sleep. There's parts, animal parts that are like kind of pseudo-sacrifice, that make whatever. He walks through it. Abraham understands. Whoa. Well, kind of understands. He's like, what the heck is going on? God is saying, I'm going to take the punishment for you if you fail. Again, this points us all the way to Christ. God himself coming down as human and taking the punishment for the failure of Abraham. Powerful stuff, dude. And I freaking love that story so much. I think one thing I also forgot to mention, I think was super powerful as I was looking it up, studying and everything, God's mercy and redemption. And the way that, again, he doesn't throw away and start over, which is maybe at first glance what we see. But when we look at the story of Adam, the story of Cain, how he meets us where we're at, I think it's such a powerful thing. Because when I think about it, like when I think about me, right, and even my pastors criticized this about me when I was more heavily in ministry, where like maybe this is a strength, maybe it's a weakness. I don't care for people's attitudes, insecurities. If you want to work with me, if you want to be in mission, let's do this. If you don't, if you need, oh, you're so important to me, and stay home. I don't need that. I'm also that way about, can you do the job or not? If you can't do the job, stay home. Don't get in our way. God does not treat us like that. There is a way that is disposing of people's inherent value, and God does not dispose of that. God does not treat us as disposable. I think that's a powerful thing that honestly like made me shed a tear a little bit. Just his faithfulness and mercy and grace with us. Patience. Abraham is definitely a story of just patience. He lies a lot. We see him lying to a couple of kings about Sarah, who she is. It's like, oh, this is my sister. And then the king's like, bro, this is a beautiful woman. I'm going to marry her. And then he's like, bro, the vibe's off a little bit. And then they're like, wait, are you Abraham's wife? They're like, yeah. And then they bring in Abraham, like, bro, why would you do that? He's like, dude, you're going to kill me for my wife. Duh. And I didn't lie. She's my half sister, and they're just like, bro, get out of here. All right. So that happened twice. The fear that he goes through, feeling that leads to the surrogate child with Hagar, right? That gives birth to Ishmael. Like this, and then that even fulfilling the promise when it wasn't even for that promise. If you get it, you get it. People are fighting wars about it to this day, right? And so the deep insights here from 12 to 15, God's covenant, God alone walks through the pieces. God takes the curse upon himself. Wait, hold up. If at any point in this you said, hey, I never thought about it like that, please subscribe. What are you doing, man? I'm trying to pay my bills. Okay, anyways, let's get back to the serious stuff. All right, see it. Genesis 18 and 19, Sodom and Gomorrah. It is not about homosexuality. Now, I am not explaining the gay away, right? But we have to read it in its proper context, understand it in what it actually meant, right? So when we look at the story, we see a few things. One, these people, like it could have been anybody. They wanted to, let me just read my notes, okay? So this is about arrogant injustice. We get this by what Ezekiel says in chapter 16, and he talks about the pride and the arrogance of Sodom, and prophet speaking the words of God, right? So that's one thing. The gross inhospitality and violent gang sexual abuse that they desire to demonstrate superiority, right? That's what we're looking at in Genesis 19. The sexual perversion and possible spiritual rebellion in Jude 7, right? Jude 1:7, there's only one chapter. So when you say Jude 7, you're referring to the verse. Okay. But even in that, there are theories. There's some theologians that say it wasn't about it being a man. It was about it being an angel specifically. Like, oh, I haven't been with an angel before. And so there's that going on. God listens to the intercessions of Abraham again and again. And he's like, 100 people, 50 people, 20 people, 10 people, one person, please. And there's just that back and forth. God is patient with him, and then again redeems only what is redeemable and destroys the irredeemable entirely. This is super important to understand about the character of God. Okay. And again, why don't you just say it's for homosexuality? It's deeper than that. It's worse than that. God is welcoming, hospitable. He is humble. He is, well, holy, righteous. Everything that this city was not. Oh, I don't need my my conspiracy theory hat anymore. Everything that God is not. And that is what we see in Sodom and Gomorrah. Yes, it's a sin. I think the Bible is clear about that. I don't think this part of Scripture is speaking on that. Isaac and Jacob. Themes here. Isaac repeats Abraham's deception. This is family dysfunctions get passed down on and on. Generational sin. Now, generational curse, generational trauma. What's there? Look, I like, actually, there's this pastor from, I think, New York. I don't know. I watched him on Lecrae, and I think his idea is as true as can be, which is essentially, does it matter? Like, am I going to pray? Yeah. Am I going to do therapy? Yeah. I'm going to do all the things that I need to do. So whether it's just trauma, whether it's a curse, it's a spiritual thing, like, it all don't matter. You just use all your tools that you can to deal with it. And you're like, oh, but I want to, I guess give glory to one thing. Look, I heard of this story of there was this exorcist that would talk to these demons and like trick them to get out of the body. There's like a story of him, and he was like prolific. And I'm like, bro, that's just therapy. I think you just invented therapy. Yeah, like you created CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. You know what I mean? You're like reframing stuff. Anyway, okay, look, I'm going off the deep end. My point is, Jacob deceives Isaac for the blessing. There's deception with Isaac. There's deception with Laban, with Lot, the whole family. Okay, trickery. That's just something that stuck out to me. Something to think about, talk about. Jacob's journey. Okay, Genesis 28 through 36. So the Bethel dream, heaven touches earth. This is the ladder, Jacob's ladder, right? This is important as Jesus references it in John 1:51. And he says, truly, I say to you that angels will be ascending and descending on the Son of Man. You will see this. Kind of crazy. So what is that? Jesus is the ladder. Jesus is Jacob's ladder. Just a lot of things point to Jesus is kind of the point here. Wrestling with God becomes Israel. This is an interesting story. I love this story so much. I wish people would grasp onto it, not in a Jordan Peterson way, but in a real spiritual, life-giving way. And so what can we grab out of this story? Jacob, okay, means heel grabber or deceiver. Israel means God contends or struggles with God, wrestles with God. So one interesting thing about the change in his name is that he was a heel grabber, wrestling with men, and he was redeemed to his name, meaning wrestling with God. So he went from wrestling with men to wrestling with God. And this is an identity shift. This is a redemption of him being a heel grabber. He's not grabbing the heels of man. He's grabbing the heels of God. We see here when he's wrestling with God, he's wrestling with his fears. When I say when he's wrestling with his fears, I mean powered by his fears, his guilt, his past, his destiny is wrestling with God. This is the thing that is wrestling with God, yet he refuses to let go without a blessing, right? This is happening right before he goes to meet his brother. He knows there's a death wish You know, he's a wanted man. He's going back to the land that was promised to his father's father. God told him to go back, and he's like, I'm going, but like, bruh, I'm not going to survive. So all of his fear, all of the guilt of deceiving his brother, his dad, his past, his destiny, all of that is being wrestled. And then we have here that God wounds him for life. This is so crazy. So he wounds his hip. He's limping for the rest of his life. This is one to remind him every day of what happened that day, right? He wrestled with God and was alive to tell the story. That is, I mean, symbolically our conversion, symbolically of our testimony, you know, to also depend on God, right? He doesn't have his full strength anymore, so he has to depend on God, and that his strength comes through his weakness. So he's weak now. He has to depend on God, and God is his strength. And he lived the rest of his life in that legacy. The question then is like, well, why did he have to limp him? And my thing is, what is a limp to see the face of God and live? Why? What's so problematic? I think it's worth it, right? It's worth an arm and a leg. In this case, a leg, a hip, to see the face of God. I don't know. So this is symbolic of the story and identity of greater Israel, right? He is Israel, but all of Israel, people who wrestle with God. Hey guys, thank you so much for going on this journey with me. If you like the content, please like, subscribe, follow, and remember, there is more to life, and that is good news. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.